All right, welcome back to the Writer's Lens. This is Josh JCL Felto, and I am joined today, not in studio, but in spirit across the internet waves. Gentleman E.G. Graves, who is a playwright and nutrition educator. Say hello, Eric.
Yeah. Well, hello, everybody. Hello, Josh. Thanks for having me on your
Yeah,
show.
man. I almost fumbled it because I know we were talking right before this about calling you EG or Eric. So we're gonna go back and forth with that throughout this interview. So, we'll go back and
But
forth, man.
Eric is my main, but I go by E.G. Graves. So, yeah, that's fine. Just don't call me late for dinner, Josh. Okay.
Right. So excellent, man. Excellent. So Eric is someone that I got connected with through another individual who had been on the podcast before, Willie Scott, who's been on here twice, and his wife Rachel, who's been on here once. And Willie and I were having some conversations about just some creative folks in Cleveland and some people that he thought I should be networking with. And Eric's name came up, and he said, "Man, you got to connect with this guy. He's doing this play. It's called Mistaken Identity." And my interest was piqued initially because I've never talked to somebody who's written a full-on play before. And so for me, this is kind of a very, kind of fun, out of the box, almost out of my comfort zone kind of interview because I'm curious to hear about your experience doing it. So that's why I really wanted to bring Eric on here, was to kind of talk about not only just his play coming up, but just this process of being a playwright. Because to me, this is really, really interesting. So a fellow creative in the Cleveland area, as it turns out, I keep getting connected with more and more Cleveland creatives as it turns out. It seems as though this is a hotbed for creativity and people who are doing some real artistic work. So, EG, appreciate you being on here today, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you for me, Josh. I'm very excited, man. Thank you.
Cool, cool. So before I give away more about you, I'd rather you kind of tell your story a little bit about where you've come from and just kind of how this has been birthed in you, really. So go ahead, man.
Well, the beginning thing is a lot of pain, Josh. I think about my life, and I know no different than anybody else's, but it's been a lot of pain, a lot of abandonment, a lot of isolation,
Mm.
a lot of problems. And what I've just been discovering, even now in my adult life, is that caused a lot of lack of self love for who I was. So, but the gift of writing was always there. There was a healing in my writing that I would never know about. So I come from a family of 8, and I just met my father. I met my father at the age of 19. I'm not 19 anymore, but and all 7 of my brothers and sisters, they have a different father.
Oh,
So he
wow.
was so they're all my stepfather's kids. So he raised us, my stepfather. So I'm the only one that has a different dad. Um, October 2018 was the 11th time I met my father, my biological. And I got the call on this past October that he was in the hospital for lung cancer.
Oh, wow.
And they said, you need to get there. And I hadn't really spoke to him. But because he was my dad, I went. And on October 20th, he passed away from lung cancer.
Oh, wow.
On October 22nd, Josh, that side of the family who I barely knew called me and said, "Eric, you're responsible for all of your father's funeral arrangements."
Wow.
Josh, that was I buried a man I didn't know.
Wow.
And it took 6 weeks to get him buried. 6 weeks. Oh, just think about it. And, but I did get to know him. I got to know my father in 6 weeks more than I did when he was alive.
Hmm.
And so I say that story to say my life has been a lot of that, a lot of just shocks and pains and bumps and bruises and trying to figure out who I am.
Hmm.
And, yeah. So that's just a preview.
Wow. Wow. That's there. I mean, there's a lot there. And obviously I didn't know a lot of that before you and I just started talking now. And, I mean, like you were just saying, a lot of like bumps and just shock kind of stuff going on in your life. I mean, do you think that ends up, as far as writing is concerned and wanting to have a voice about things, is that really therapeutic then, do you think, as far as where it comes out of?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm glad you use therapeutic because
Mm-hmm.
that's how I've made it. I've, that one thing the writing does, and you say you write science fiction, you do some writing yourself,
Mm-hmm.
it takes us to an imaginary place.
Yeah.
And the imaginary place becomes real in our writing. So it's not that it's imaginary in this fantasy world but when we create in writing, we actually create a reality of and I believe, and I've done that with my pain. I've done a lot. I just gave a more recent example of it, but my life has been a lot of those bumps and bruises, but my writing has been the therapy that has, and I'm able to add the humor. I'm able to add the thing that I able to add the hope to a situation that is hopeless.
Wow. And you found that hope, I mean, in terms of your writing, but also just, I mean, for me, my writing was really shifted when I found out I had a more kind of a higher calling as far as, where my writing was coming from. And because I feel like if we don't have a bit of a higher calling in it, we don't have a purpose behind it, our writing can just become kind of an angry voice. It's not directed in a sense that's actually going to help people. So I'm really encouraged to hear that that's the place you've kind of come out of with it. So
yeah, and I'm very proud as you speak. I'm looking at your, that you call it the writer's lens, and I think that's awesome, Josh, because I see it twofold. I see it, of course, as the lens, but it's the lens from which we write, and that view and that perspective on life. Yeah, it's already it is a higher calling though. It's a different perspective. We've seen the writing that has been angry and left us feeling like, okay, we've seen it in movies, we've seen it in books, and we're like, where were you going with that? I feel worse than I did. And I think that writing, particularly the written word, is so powerful. Right. It's so powerful. Very impactful.
It is. So knowing that you've had a lot of like therapeutic writing in your past, you've had a lot of these things that have kind of shaped and molded you, throughout the years, e.g., it's brought you to this place now where you've put on this full-on play, which again, I'm just totally blown away by, because just thinking of having two small children and, a job that I have and just trying to write a book is one task in of itself. But when I think of a play, there's so many moving parts that you're kind of directing and whatnot. How on earth did that get birthed in you, this desire to do something like that?
Well, that's good, Josh. I think it, again, pain, where it was 1997. I was married. I got married young. Tell people that when you get out of high school, you either get married, go to jail, get on drugs. Something happens crazy.
Wow.
But I got married, and my marriage wasn't going so well. It was going really bad. I didn't have any male figures to help me, so I was struggling. And in 97, I actually went to a stage play at the Playhouse Theater in Cleveland. And I was sitting there and something came over me, like it was God. And it was like, I could write something like this. I had no prior experience to playwriting. And so I went home and I didn't even type it. I wrote it in a notebook. I wrote 100 pages. Well, when I got to the 100th page, me and my wife got into an argument. She was very upset with me. And she said, I can't believe you're taking food out the family's mouth. And I was like, well, how much does pen and paper cost? Because that's all I was really doing, right? I was just writing. Yeah. Well, I wrote at the kitchen table, and the next day I went to work, and I would always put it in the pile to the side. Well, when I got home, the play was gone, completely gone. Yeah.
No way.
It just so happened that was garbage day. And yes, Josh,
I feel your pain, man. I feel your pain.
My heart was thrown away, Josh. And then, and at that time, I wasn't even going to produce a play. I just wanted to see if I could write it. And at that time, I worked at Cleveland Clinic, and I didn't know about acting or auditions or anything. So I was telling all my coworkers, and they were like, yeah, I want to be in your play. I'm like, yeah, come on. I was like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, like, yeah, follow the yellow brick road. Come on, everybody. Right? And so I had these cast of people that were so excited, but then my play got thrown away, and my heart was crushed. And so I had to go back to each one of them and tell them that I didn't have to play. But there was this one lady, she was just so excited. She had never been in a play before. This was her big moment, and I apparently was going to be the one to give her that opportunity. So it took me a little longer to share with her that I didn't have to play, because I couldn't break it to her. I didn't want to break her heart. Finally, after 2 weeks, she would ask, though, within the 2 weeks, and I would say, oh, it's it's coming along,
Sure.
And so after 2 weeks, finally, I said, listen, I got to be honest with you. The play is gone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened. I didn't disclose the information,
Mm-hmm.
but I was like, it's gone. And she was so heartbroken, Josh. She was just so heartbroken. And that's what I was trying to avoid. And so after she, collected her feelings, she looked at me with a serious face and she said, so when you go write another one? And I was thinking, lady, didn't you just hear me? My heart is gone. Like, but Josh, that moment changed my life. That moment got me back start writing plays again. After that, I began to study plays. After that, I began to see what playwrights were doing and get this further education in it. And I always thought outside the box. So I started seeing what they were doing and coming up with creative ways to go a little bit different from that. So that birthed it. And then the first play I wrote was about marriage. It was called From This Day Forward. And it was about a couple who were having troubles in their marriage, but they decided that from this day forward that they would make it work. That was not my story, but I wanted to see what it would look like if somebody had a life like that. Wow. And then, yeah. So then later I would go on, and I'm a father of two. My daughter's Miracle and my son's Elijah, and they're 19 and 21, so they're grown now. But when they were younger, since I didn't have a father figure, I was really scared to be a father. And so I had my daughter. I said, well, I'll just see, all of this is just how the writing comes about. I was like, well, I'll just treat her like a lady, be respectful, open doors. But when I had a son, I actually thought God was playing a joke on me, because I didn't know how to fish, work on cars, play basketball, golf, whatever men do. I was like, what am I going to teach him? I don't know. So I was terrified. So my next play was called Tough Love, because I wanted to see how far a father would go for the love of his child. So it was about a father whose son was on the right track for college, but he got caught up with drugs, and he ended up in crack houses and places that he shouldn't. And his father had to go get him from those places. So it was called Tough Love. How far would a father go for the love of his child? Wow. So these things inspired us. And then he went from Tough Love to, I did that twice. That got premiered twice in Cleveland. And then we went on to Adam, Where Art Thou? Based off of God asking Adam in the garden, where are you? But more specifically to the single woman who was looking for her Adam. Where are you? Right? And my mother is a mother, raised 8 children. And I seen her do it, even though there was a male in the house, my stepfather, she really pretty much raised us by herself. So I saw the struggle of pretty much a single woman with a man there. And so I wrote a play, Adam, Where Art Thou? And this particular young lady, she had her life together. She was beautiful. She had money, the money she wanted, but she didn't have a man. And she realized that her self-worth wasn't tied in to a outside force like a man. So she figured out that sometimes what God has in store for you is right in front of your face. It's not that you have to look any further. So every play. Then from there, I did a play. I used to teach drama for the youth. And this one of the young people came to me and said, Mr. Eric, can you come to my play? So I used to support him. So I went. It was a young lady, and I went, and this play was called The Wonderful Wisdom of God. And the teacher at that school wrote it. And I was blown away at the concept that she could come up with something so creative. So I got back in touch with the mother, and I asked her, could you reach out to this teacher for me? I want to redo that play. I want to give it another spin with her permission. And did that play. I did The Wonderful Wisdom of God. I changed a few things, and I invited the teacher. And she was blown away. It was a full-length play. All these are full-length. And she was blown away at but it was so good that you're seeking the wisdom of God. And it was Dorothy and all of them, but they were after the wisdom of God. It was awesome. And it was all kid production.
You're getting me jacked up, man. Okay, so I gotta slow the brakes, because this is a lot of good stuff. How much time was happening in between each of those plays for you? I mean, like the process, as far as, because the one thing that, this is really cool, and you're getting me like really interested in hearing some, like, just the details of each of these, because there's a lot of themes that you're playing with throughout all these plays. It's not like you have just one idea that you're running with. These are all different, seasons of life, sort of, I don't want to say traumatic events, but very dramatic things that can happen to us, and kind of figuring out how to like filter that and interpret it, as it's happening to us. I mean, because that's a big thing is interpretation. I mean, art is obviously about interpretation, but also how we're interpreting, the art that we're making too is also pretty paramount thing. So just to backtrack real quick, the time in between each of these plays, I mean, how did you even get your first play out and into the sphere of people to see? I mean, because I think that's really valuable to know. Just like, I mean, you wrote a play, but then, okay, how did I even get it in front of people? How did I get it produced? So I'm just curious how that happened.
Yeah, well, first it was motivation from it being thrown away. After I think that throwaway prompted me to find out more about how to produce it. I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have a lot to work with. So the very first play was very just basic. Well, I ended up going to my pastor at my church at the time and asking him, could I do the play a Friday and Saturday and a matinee? Because I had seen other plays. I seen other plays with a Friday night, a matinee. So I just mimicked that. And on the first play, we pushed it through the church, and I did flyers and postcards. That's all I did, and grassroots marketing. And 300 people came.
Wow,
300 people. Yeah, and who didn't even know my name.
Wow.
And so I didn't recognize the magnitude of that then. I get it now, how blessed that was. Mm-hmm. I was just so focused on trying to produce it that I almost missed that God sent 300 people who didn't know me. So my plays have averaged 300 or more since that time. So it never went back. Mm-hmm. But 300 people came, and we did it 3 shows. And that was where I got comfortable. That's where I got a little more confident. The world didn't really know it, but it wasn't the crowd that made me confident. It was the fact that I actually was able to get it out of my mind and onto stage. And that was the helpful part. The people came later, but I needed to know because my play got thrown away by somebody I cared about. It was like I was trying to prove to myself that I was worth it.
Right.
And so that was more of what it was about back then.
That's awesome. I mean, there really is something to be said for completing a project. I mean, just getting it out of your system, because I know the anxiety of like trying to finish a work like that. I mean, that it can be a burden that you make for yourself that can just cause you to just get weighed down, and all of a sudden other things begin to be affected by it in a strange way. I mean, you as a creative can probably relate to this too. I mean, when you have this focus, I want to get, I want to be able to get this message out. I want to be able to get this, out. It's in me. I want to get it out. And if I'm unable to do that, if I'm hindered in some way, it can affect other things in our life, right? I mean, it can affect other things.
Yes.
So I totally get that. So then this first play that went through your church, and you had all these people that came, which is just awesome. As far as the next one and the one after that, did venues change? I mean, did you end up getting different connections outside of that?
Yeah, it did get more exposure, but it stayed in churches for a while. Mm-hmm. It went to bigger churches. And so the churches got bigger. So the audience didn't so much. The space did, but I think from the time I wrote it to the time I premiered it was 4 years.
Wow.
So I because the play got thrown away, I had to, check myself, my self-esteem, my emotions. So 2002, it actually came out from that time. That was the first time. But by that time I had already, had that self-talk, and God had already kind of confirmed. So then, it will move to the next church. And after that, it was every 2 years. So 2002, the next one was 2004. The next one was 2006. And then it was a 2008. So I did one twice, in that time. And so the last one Adam, so it was I was averaging every 2 years because I had the access to the churches. It actually made it easier. Yeah. But as I got further along, I learned more about playwriting, more about sets, more about auditions. So as I grew with the churches, I grew with my professionalism with the productions.
That's really cool, man. So you're just kind of banging these things out every 2 years or so. I mean, is that kind of a typical time frame, do you think, for producing? I'm not sure. These?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. But all of that was fine until 2010. All that was going good. 2010, it would take me from that time to now to do this next play. And so I got the wind knocked out of me again. So I was working with a church, and it was my biggest venue at the church. And they actually got their lawyers involved. So I think they caught wind of maybe I was going to be something, So we signed the contract, and it was a church I attended. And I signed the contract in faith, like, yes, this is, but what I ended up doing was signing over the rights to that play to them. Not all the way blindly, but somewhat blind. And Josh, it crushed me, man. It crushed me because I thought it was at least going to be supported and there was going to be other opportunities to present, but it was not. It's almost, and then I own no rights. I couldn't give out anything. I could give out DVDs for free. So from 2010 to now, it took that long to really get back to confidence. Wow. Last year, 2017, I actually got back up. 2018, I started writing, and here we are with this new production. So
that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
But we don't know.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to cut you off there. I was just going to say, we don't know how long those kind of seasons, those periods of time are going to be. We just don't. We're called to walk in faith in between those time periods and just continue to look for that inspiration, kind of those divine downloads, if you will, in some way, to keep moving forward. So I give
especially
you a lot. Oh, go ahead.
Gosh, like writers, what I'm saying, we're sensitive with our writing. It's like, hey, this, all the writers I know, I told a writer recently, they said, how much should I charge for something they were doing? I said, charge enough in case somebody hurts your feelings. You got to charge, enough because people gonna hurt you. Our writing is always up for critique. So, but I like how you said, we get those divine downloads. And I thought in that night, it's been 9 years now. Wow. That I wasn't a writer. I just thought that playwriting wasn't my thing, but God wouldn't leave me. He wouldn't let that go. Ideas were still coming. Things were just still popping in my head. I'm like, Lord, I'm over that. Remember, that, remember what happened back here? And God was like, no, the writer that you are, I need you to tell your story. I need you to do it in your essay. So now I got 10 more plays after this. And I'm going to do those every 2 years.
Wow. Yeah, that was kind of going to be towards the end of the conversation. We can get to those for sure, but man, that's awesome, E.G. That's just awesome, man. So, I mean, your pathway and just everything about it is just really inspiring to me because you've basically, and you were saying how you were working at the clinic at the time, and you were just like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. I don't know anything about it. I'm just going to go with it and just see what I can do, just throwing caution to the wind kind of a deal. As far as you were saying building confidence throughout the years, you're doing them every 2 years and you're getting a lot of good feedback. How important is it to be, and again, this is something I struggle with, how important is it to separate the identity of E.G. Graves, the playwright, from E.G. Graves doing other things? Does that make sense? I mean,
yeah.
Is
the question again? I'm sorry.
So is that a difficult balance, do you think? Like the identity of I'm the creative playwright, and this is what I do, and this is all I do, and everything's wrapped up in this. This is my dreams, my hopes, my passions. I mean, how difficult is it to separate that from E.G. Graves anywhere else in life? I mean, as far as, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a challenge. It still goes back to surprisingly confidence. How confident are you in your roles? Because I teach acting, I help people understand that we play roles in everyday lives, our everyday life. So at one moment you're dad, next moment you're writing your book, next moment you're doing a podcast. So those are different hats. And I think it's literally taking off the hat and focusing in. So when I was writing the play, I would write the play after work. I happened to bring it to work and share it with people. That was only at the clinic, though. After the clinic, the next job, I didn't talk about the play at work. I would just work on the play. And then when it was time to market and promote it, we would just do that. And even now, that's not what I'm doing. I go to work now during the day. At the end of the day, I work on the production. And my office, they've been hearing a buzz, but they don't really know. And they'll hear about it as they need to hear about it. But I think it's about just, and I think it helps us as writers to be in our zone, if you will, just be in the zone of, I think, so I think, when I'm pausing because even my cast, now some of them who auditioned knew me from somewhere before. And they knew me as Eric, and hey, he's the fun guy, whatever. But when they walked in this production, they were shocked at the professionalism and how serious it was. So I think immediately sensing that, they saw E.G. Graves, the hat of E.G. Graves. And once I got that respect, I just walk in that.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So do you have any qualms about telling people they're good or bad when they audition? I mean, do you have any kind of like, do you like any pullback or anything like that? Like, is there some, because to me, I'm like, I feel like it's an interview, and I'm not always comfortable interviewing people like for, my job in a corporate sense or anything like that. But I mean, like you said, it's charged enough that they can hurt your feelings. I think it was kind of how you were saying it.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're doing auditions with people and things like that. I mean, you obviously been doing this for years now, so you pretty comfortable with that at this point?
Well, the good news is two sides to that. One, yes, to your question, it's not as much of a problem because I know the bigger vision that God has given me, and I know my heart. I know my heart is for the people. I tell my cast, I said, my job is to take care of you, but your job is to take care of my audience. We won't compromise either. So if I'm going to do everything I can to make sure y'all feel valued, welcome, and respected, VIP, but you will get that same respect to the audience because it's just how it, But I don't have that challenge. But one of the things I've learned is that I'm not really part of the audition process no more. That actually blesses me. So my audition process is blind auditions. You come in, you don't get a monologue to practice. So that I don't care what kind of actor you are. You can have 20 years of experience or you could be new. Y'all all at the same level at our auditions. So you come in.
So I could show up and try. Oh.
Right.
Okay.
Seriously.
Well, you said you got 10 more coming, so I might show up one of these days.
I love you, Josh. You'll be great. So, but it's blind. So you walk in and you don't have any prep. I don't care how your acting experience has been. Mm-hmm. So, but at the same time, I'm not there. And so the next part of the process is an interview with me. Mm-hmm. And that's when I first time. So by the time I see you, my team is already, and this time around, they've been really rough. So I only interview, and most people don't interview, but I interview just to see what your heart is. Because I write a little different. I do what I call a backdoor approach to writing. I don't write the way you think I should write. I'll give you a title and it'll sound like it should be one thing, but really and so I want to make sure people's heart or they're okay with the way I'm about to present it. And I do love me and Jesus pretty cool. So I want to make sure that you know that you're going to be on a set that's going to be inspiring, encouraging. And sometimes we're going to pray. Are you okay with that? So
that's awesome. That's awesome, man. Do you think that there's a lot to be gained from live performances as opposed to like film? Since you obviously went towards that direction, because there's people that are filmmakers and they think film is like where it's at. Like, this is how I'm going to inspire people. This is how I'm going to touch people is through film, through movies, through recorded, whatever it is. But you have a very like live. It's happening right now. It's right in front of people. What's your thoughts on that? I guess.
Well, about a year ago, I got friends that do film, and we actually got into a debate about that because they were trying to downplay. Yeah, because film is popular. What's happening now, and the movie, no doubt about it, is definitely what's happening, right? But the debate, but the problem was they were trying to play down the stage, and I was reminding them that a lot of the stars that we see in the film came performances. So my argument is pretty much this: it's that the raw talent of a person, the trueness or the real confidence of what you can do comes from the stage. It's no faking it. No faking it on the stage. There's no edits. There's no cuts. So you have to be Josh on the stage and you have to give your best or not. Either you succeed or fail. There's nothing cushioning you. And I think at the end of that, when you've done that, you are stronger, you're more confident, and you have opportunity to make a more direct impact on the people that's in front of you. So for that reason, I stick with the stage. Mm-hmm. Now I do use film elements in my play, because for example, my last one, Adam, Where Art Thou, I had extras on the stage. Well, you don't do that. When you write plays, if you're on the stage, you're speaking. But I had a restaurant, and I wanted people sitting in the restaurant that didn't say anything. So, but I do believe there's something about coming into your true self by stepping on the stage versus the film. I definitely love going to movies and different things like that. But on the movie, After you've acted, I go to the editing room and make the movie the way I want it. But on the stage, you don't get that luxury, and I think that's a benefit to the individual.
That's really cool, man. That's a really great insight. I mean, I could maybe come to similar conclusions as a casual watcher and things like that, because my two younger brothers were really involved in our high school plays. I mean, they did a lot of plays and they were in musicals and things like that. I actually, this is a total tangent sidebar, but I got hit in the throat when I was like 15. So I like couldn't sing anymore. Like there were certain octaves I just can't hit. So I had no, after that I had no ambition to be on stage for any reason. Like choir or anything like that, or band, nothing. And my two younger brothers have very good voices. And so they did all the musicals in high school, and we got to see them perform, and I was always a little bit jealous, I would say, of their ability to just go up there and pipe out something and things like that, because they always did a fantastic job. But I was like, oh, what could have been? but at the same time, God had other plans.
But in its own way, in our own way, it was able to impact you more directly too, though. I mean, that's more of not of a pleasant thought, but imagine that same feeling in a positive light, where you've seen your brothers on stage and you felt inspired. Maybe you hadn't sung yet, and you were like, I think I want to sing. I think stage gives us that gift. It gives us that. It makes it personal. And I'm very relational, so I think stage for me helps me keep it relational. There was opportunities to go into film, but when I got it, and then the debate I had with the gentleman, a guy I know, he said, I don't like plays because y'all rehearsals take weeks and months. Well, you know what, sir? Yours take all day. You barely y'all rehearsals are cut, retakes. And I was on the set of a movie. I was like, can we go home? So,
or at least get me something to eat. I've been out here forever, right?
I'm getting hangry. Hangry used to be a made-up word, but now I'm getting hangry. So it balances out on both sides. There's a lot of pluses in film, though. I think you could communicate more of the troubles of life through film than you can on stage. I do think you got to be careful on stage with stuff like drug addictions, alcoholism, some of the sturbs of life, rape. You got to be very careful with that because it's spirit to spirit when you're in the play.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, there are certain things that you can kind of allude to with a stage presence as opposed to on film, because on film you have that ability, you have that luxury, like you were saying, where you can cut and edit things, and there's different angles that you can give the viewer that they're able to, they basically, you have the ability to take them anywhere, essentially.
Yes.
Whereas with a live performance, you're sitting in this is a stationary position. I get to see everybody up there, and they're moving around doing different things. So it's interesting as we're talking about this, and I'm just talking out loud. E.g. is you kind of have to fill in a lot of the blanks if you're watching a live performance. You kind of are almost, I don't want to say reading between the lines, but it's almost more difficult in some way, I think, for a person who's doing a live performance to really convey the message the best way possible, as opposed to just spoon feeding it to somebody, through film. And I'm not downplaying film whatsoever, because I got friends that are filmmakers that listen to this podcast. So I'm not, so I don't want them to think I'm slighting them whatsoever. But
no, film gets its own accolades. I mean, film is amazing. The way I describe it to people is that with play, you can really, it's not read between the lines, maybe not. My experience has been you have to be more intentional about the dialogue in stage plays. So you almost have to say everything. That's the spoon feed part. Where in film you can kind of you have to show more pictures. So you have to visually stimulate us and make our imagination work. Where on the stage, I have to make sure I speak a lot more of the language. And I think when you do that, people don't have to read in between the lines as much.
Gotcha. So that's all really good, E.G. Shifting gears here then, as far as the play is going to go on, and we're going to get to the one that you're doing soon here, but as far as marketing it now, I mean, you said you were doing a lot of kind of boots on the ground marketing with flyers and posters, and this is the digital age now, man. I mean, even you and I having this conversation right now via sort of a teleconference, if you will, to even do this is a real blessing for us. It's very fortunate that we have the technology to do so.
Yes,
How do you approach, Yeah, how do you approach marketing something like this now? I mean, what are some things that you kind of employ to do something like this?
Interesting. Definitely social media. Social media has been our greatest push down. The Facebook, the Instagram. I mean, we've gotten so much love just from that. So 90% of our stuff has been from the social media in this round. What's interesting though, and so we're continuing to do that. We are on YouTube. We got a YouTube interview set up. We have different things. We have Group Me. So we're communicating through Group Me. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram, and it's getting a lot of. And we're asking people to share, asking people to subscribe, and that's getting a lot of push. So it's doing really good. So we're flowing through that. But interesting enough, with people who know I've been doing this for a while, they're approaching me directly. So I tried to get away from flyers and postcards. Even when I told my team, I said, we're not even going to do any of that. We're going all digital. But I'm finding now, and we just ordered some postcards because a lot of people still like that personal touch. So we're just now getting to that part of it, the grassroots. So where before all I did was grassroots. Well, so we're just now, so because people are literally like, can I have something? And I'm like, I still want stuff, you know.
No, that's really good. I'm sorry. Did you have another thought there, or? No, because I was just going to say, because one of the big tensions, I think, with being a creative is that you have this unlimited, like, audience out there, like out in the internet space, and you want to be able to reach it, right? You want to be able to touch as many people as possible. But there really is something to be said for, there's a tangible thing I've been given, and I'm looking at a person in the face, and they're telling me about what they're passionate about, and they want me to come see this thing. I mean, that's ultimately where you're going to be able to sell somebody, as opposed to the casual, internet surfer who's just looking through things, and maybe they're a friend of a friend, and they see a Facebook post and they go, oh, mistaken identity, that sounds kind of interesting.
Right.
Maybe I'll go, but I don't know any of these people. But I see a couple friends are going, and your hope, of course, like mine is, I'm a dreamer, is this person sees it and goes, I'm going to take this on a whim, and I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to try. I'm going to give it, whatever, a chance. And this will be the one time I get to impress them. So I get a bit of that tension. So anyway, go ahead.
I was going to say, I have an awesome team now. This is one of my blessings. This is the first time I had a team this solid. And one of the things they call me about the photographer, call me about the hairstylist. So they're working on that stuff. So I get the final say. That's cool. Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, they say, I got this great hairstylist. Okay. So my first question is always, do you like them? Do you like them? Because I'm interested in the relationship. I'm glad you saw them on Facebook. I'm glad you saw them on social media, kind of like you're saying. And it's like, but do you like them? And then they go back and say, well, no, I don't really. Okay, so let's pick somebody else. So even though there's a digital age and there's a lot, you're right. There's something to be said about. I hope that people see my stuff and hear this podcast and see all the stuff I'm putting out and say, oh, that sounds good. I like it. But I hope they say they like him and then they want to go see it. Or versus, because it's a 50-50 chance there. Yeah. But I think it's important to I think even a plumber, I had a plumber one time and I didn't like him. I just didn't like him. Just like,
like was he not good? Was he not good, or was he just just not a good guy, or whatever?
This was a good guy, so it didn't matter. It didn't matter what he was about to do to my pipes, to the pipes of my house. I didn't like him. So I think that's important. People minimize that, and people get deep with that part, but I think that. But for the relationship, because you can be around anybody you choose, and you can do business with anybody you want to do business with. But there should be some kind of. That's what I like about this with you. We had opportunities to speak, and I already knew I was going to like you by, like you said, by Willie referring. So I was game. I'm saying yes, put me on, because Josh got to be amazing, and you are, you are.
Well, thanks,
and so you are, and that's what makes this more. But imagine that if we didn't like each other, like that's not. That doesn't work.
Oh, no, it doesn't.
But I've seen people, and then I've been guilty as well, where we have acquiesced to a service or a play or a movie that we really just didn't even like the actor or like the person that was doing on the other end. And I think that's a disservice to ourselves. So So I go back, with that being said, I go back to personal touches whenever possible. And it's a quick story. Last Sunday, a young lady wanted to buy tickets for the play. All of our tickets are on Eventbrite. It's helping my life to be on Eventbrite. Keeping track, I'm doing all good. It's keeping the record. Well, she didn't want to do Eventbrite. And I was trying to encourage her to go to Eventbrite. Like, she's a younger woman. I was like, go to Eventbrite. She said no. And so she's like, I want some tickets. So now she got me printing tickets. I'm going to print some tickets but here's why I'm doing that. Okay. This lady last week sold $150 in tickets on her own.
Wow.
On her own.
Wow.
And then she texted me this morning. She got $300 more for me to pick up this Sunday.
Wow.
And that was a grassroots moment. That wasn't a digital moment. I was trying to get her to go, but so you just I think that the secret now is just balance it. Don't just be so antiquated, but also don't forget that a touch still works.
No, absolutely it does. I mean, the book signings that I go to, when I actually get to be in front of people and talk to them about what I've written and get to give my elevator speech and what I enjoyed doing, that I took all this time to do. It's a bit of a humbling moment as well, because you're sitting there and I've obviously worked on this now. I'm much better at it now than I was when I first did it, because when I first had to go to a book signing and give an elevator pitch and say what my book was about, I'm there going, kind of fumbling over my words. And now it's just so much more natural, and you can just kind of talk to people, and that goes a long way. And you end up being much better at, I guess, for what it's worth, just selling the book, and selling the story, and people become a little more invested in it too. So it's really cool.
And then your book becomes more valuable to me because you signed it in front of me.
Yep.
Imagine sending that to me digitally. I'll be impressed or whatever I would be, but it's much better to see you put your hand, and then later I'll probably still have that book because you signed it.
Yeah.
So that's a compliment to you as well, and I just don't want to, I don't know. I mean, I'm letting God lead it. So as far as it goes electronically, digitally, I'm leaving that up to God, but people still they still want you to sign the book.
That's exactly right. I don't think we'll ever get away from that either. I think if we do start getting away with that, we're going to lose something really special. So, so kind of, bringing this in for a landing for the most part. I mean, this has been an awesome conversation, E.G. Let's talk about mistaken identity, because that is your big project that's coming up. We won't touch on any of the 10 you got coming out, man, because that's down there.
Yeah,
that might be like a future podcast episode we could do with you, because I would love to have you back on, man. You've got a lot of just depth of knowledge and just well spoken on these things, so I appreciate it. But the actual project that's right in front of you right now, mistaken identity. Little bit of just 411 on it, just anything I guess you could kind of give the listeners a little bit to chew on as far as what you guys are doing.
Again, a play birthed by pain. Let me just give you a little backstory. It's about it's been since 2010 in the making. Mm-hmm. It's called Mistaken Identity, and when you usually think of mistaken identity, you think of somebody stealing your wallet and being Josh now. Which would be a compliment, but they took your wallet. They took your wallet.
I appreciate you so much, man.
Josh, you all right?
Thanks,
and so they took your wallet. So this is not mistaken identity. That is literally what it is. But what I wrote it means you are not the sum of your pain, your problems, or your past. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we'll have some pain in our life, be it death, be it a job loss, be it something, and we'll get stuck there. Or we'll have some problems or some burdens that we fail to overcome, and we'll let that define us. We'll let a relationship that broke our heart define us, and that's a case of mistaken identity. And so the interesting thing about my plays I didn't mention is that all of my plays, I have characters in it that are me stretched. I exaggerate. So in this particular one, there's a guy. The gentleman is very angry because he lost his wife and some other stuff going on. I mean, just other things going on. He lost his father. I'm sorry. He lost his father, and he's just so angry, and he's holding on to his anger. But he realizes hopefully he realizes that you're not your anger though. You're not defined by the pain of your life. Well, when I wrote that, I was very angry, so I had to therapeutically write a way to overcome that, and you find out through the play how to do that, how to overcome. And then there's a lady in there who's dealing with her self-esteem. And she thinks her low self-esteem is her identity. It's not. She's becoming what people said she was. So if you, like, people used to call me not good looking. So after a while, I started to believe I wasn't good looking, right? So I'm not defined by that stuff. So it's a case of mistaken identity. So all the characters in this production, in this play rather, they represent me and the struggles that I was going through in my self-esteem and dealing with my anger and my emotions. As a man, I thought the only emotion was anger, because that was the one I could easily express. But sometimes I'm sad, and sometimes I'm not, sometimes I'm surprised, right? But I used to just see angry. No, you're disappointed. I'm angry. No, you're sad. So I think I help people see that in the production as well, through the emotions, particularly through men. I tend to lean toward men a little bit, because we get the short end of the stick on a lot of things. And a lot of times we don't do a lot of the healing that we need to take care of our families and stuff like that. And women don't really ask us, are we okay? We're too busy playing it off like, yeah, I'm fine, but
that's so true.
But I think
that's so true.
And it's our secret, it's our male secret. But I think what I do in the play is I help expose that. So if somebody knows somebody who's dealing with anger, they'll want to bring them to this play, and it'll be encouragement to them.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. There's something to be said for that. I mean, as far as the masculine heart is concerned, we're not very good at being emotionally in tune with ourselves.
Right.
Women are much better at that, and they're also much better at realizing that about us too. They can, I've had this conversation with Willie, as well as a few other gentlemen that I've had on the podcast, that, and in strange ways, your wife is kind of that really, really good mirror that's able to kind of tell you exactly the things that you don't want to look at and see in the mirror, but she can point those things out for you. So uniquely,
that's why
I think is the way to put it.
Yeah, but that's why he that finds a wife finds a good thing. So that's good, because we should be looking for our mirror, but nobody talks like that. We should be looking for we should look for the woman that complements the parts we don't know about ourselves. Yeah. So I agree with that wholeheartedly. But I don't know if I did justice with the play, but it's not just about that. I think that there's so much more. The play has this mistaken identities. I really want people. It's not just about men. It's funny. It's thought provoking. It's an emotional roller coaster. It's going to be a lot of things. It's family friendly. I want people to come to this production if you feel like that you've been holding on to anything too long and making that a part of who you are, and not realizing that, no, you are exactly who God said you are. If you wake up every day and you get a new day to live, that's who you are. You're not anything that happened 5 minutes ago. You're not, it's over with. You've conquered it. You've beat it. And I think I want people to see that you don't have to be defined by what other people's opinions are. You don't have to be defined by your job. There's a gentleman in the play he put all his faith in his job, and now the job lets him go. Well, that's not who you are. So it's a lot of, somebody's going to come and identify themselves in this production. They're going to see themselves. They're going to say, wow, that's because I cover job, I cover self-esteem, we cover anger, we cover just general identity. Who am I as a person? So we cover, so there's a lot of little nuances in there that we just touch. And I think that's one of the uniqueness about me writing. I write more story than I write musicals. I love musicals, but I don't have a lot of music in mind. I have a lot more story. So I'm going to take you on a journey. I'm going to make you laugh. And then the other side of that is that this particular production is tying into my company, Acting Out Real Life. And it's a foundation I'm trying to start where I help at-risk youth. And we can talk more about that in another podcast. But at-risk youth who are that are in foster care transition to adulthood. Wow. So this is actually the platform. So we're not just learning lines, Josh. We're changing lives.
I love that, man. I love that. I love your heart behind that, EG. I love it. That's really good, man. Wow, you kind of got me a little bit speechless now. I don't know how to go from there. I don't really know how to go from there, man.
I'm so excited, Josh. So forgive me, but I said a whole lot. I should have kept it more focused. But I've enjoyed you. I don't know. I guess I had some stuff built up. I want to be like,
no, man, it's great. It's great. I mean, This has been a great conversation. I've learned a lot from you just in the about a little less than an hour that I think that we've been talking.
Yeah.
As far as going forward, when will Mistaken Identity premiere? Where is it going to be at? And how can you find tickets aside from Eventbrite? If there's this person wandering the streets who's trying to sell physical tickets, like you were saying earlier,
Sure.
Yeah, well, where could we find you?
Great question. Mistaken Identity premieres March 23rd, Saturday, March 23rd. Doors open at 6:15. It's from 7 to 9. It's an hour and a half show with a 15-minute intermission. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be at the Breen Performing Arts Center on West 30th. Just a few minutes from the West Side Market on West 25th. So it's not too far from there, right across from St. Ignatius. So, of course, Eventbrite is one way you can find us. You can go to mistakenidentityplay.com to get more information. If you're just walking around on the street, we will be at all we should be in the next few days. We'll be at all the major libraries. So all the libraries will have a postcard. We'll have our postcard and flyers. As we were on this podcast, my team just texted me and they said our flyers are in. So in the next days, they will be distributed out. So you can walk into the library. Also going to be in Paneras. They're going to be in coffee shops. So you'll be
Wow.
around. But all the libraries is a good one.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So lots of different places for people to find out where this is going to be at and come see it. So awesome, man.
Yeah.
Just really awesome. I love what you're doing. I love your heart behind it. I love the vision. And I just love how you're able to speak to those areas. I think that a lot of people who maybe are listening to this might go, you know what, that's very inspiring. Maybe I'll go check this out, and maybe in some other ways I want to get in touch with this guy and just kind of see, see what he's been doing. So really good. Go ahead.
So just add this part. I'm a professional hugger. Since I didn't have a lot of hugs growing up, I like to hug. So if somebody is inspired and they want to come, I want to say right here, please hug me after the show. I love the hugs, and I would love to meet. I would just let me know that you heard me on the podcast, so I can know that just be encourage my faith. So if you come to the show after hearing this, make sure you see me and hug me. I am a professional hugger, and
you should add that to like a business card or something, E.G.
I think so.
I think you should. Create a playwright and professional hugger. Thank you very much.
See, that's catchy. I like that, Josh. I like
there
that.
you go. I think this is a creative podcast. What'd you expect? It's gonna come. It's gonna come out. Man.
I'm gonna write that down.
We will. So mistakenidentity.com. You can find it there. E.G. Graves, man, this has been a pleasure. I'm definitely have you back on here, man. Maybe post-production we can have another conversation or something. So that would be cool.
Yeah. Has anybody ever interviewed you, Josh? Because I'm interested in your writer's lens. I would love to. Oh, your own podcast, though. I would love to just let the world hear a little bit more about you, because I definitely hear just some inspiration, and even you naming it the writer's lens. So maybe we'll have opportunity to speak about that one time too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm open to that. I've been on a few other podcasts around here in Cleveland. Gentleman Brian Del Turco, Jesus Smart. I've been on there. This is me touting my own horn at this point, listeners. But yeah, and then Substance TV, I'll be on there again soon as well, which is with Jason Howard, who owns Mosaic Media. He does Substance TV as well, alongside Brian Del Turco. So I've been on there as well. So yeah, I love networking, and I love getting in touch with folks that are out there trying to impact society, culture, just issues that are out there right now. So I like making new connections like this. So this was really good.
Same here, man. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Thanks again, E.G. We'll talk to you.
Yes, sir.